Okay, this one here is a 2001 Jeep regular Cherokee. The check engine light was on until I accidentally cleared the codes. So what I'm dealing with is a 0455, I believe, a large Evap leak. And I've been wanting to do this because before I had some of these scanners with bi-directional controls and stuff, I actually looked into the leak detection pump system, and I fried a few of them trying to make them work and stuff, and learned kind of how they work. So the first thing I'm going to do is well, I am going to talk about the leak detection pump, and it won't be as technical as it could be, but it'll give you a general idea of how they work. You can see I have it back probed, and what's cool about this one is the pump is right up here next to the AC dryer. I can't get my light to move, but the ones I was frying were, I don't know if it was a Grand Cherokee or they were the Town and Countries or Caravans, where they're like buried below the master cylinder and the booster behind the power steering. And those are the ones I pretty much fried trying to get to, I think. So this will be easier to show how they work. But the first thing I did is, since I, pretty much sure I have a leak, is I did what I've done on most of my other cars here. When I have a suspected leak, I find the test port if it has one. This one does. And take the Schrader valve out. And everyone I've come across so far were reverse thread, so I had to turn this clockwise to get it out. And then I just built a T out of vacuum line and got my trusty old gauge, and I got a T somewhere, and I got shop air on this side. And what I usually do with these is I'll find the vent. This one happens to be right here as well with the filter, and I'll just block it off because this one here works a little bit different. There's no vent valve or solenoid that shuts off the fresh air to test. It's all done inside the solenoid and the leak detection pump assembly. So some of the earlier ones had a in-line between this filter, was it maybe, and the canister. When they were underneath the car, there was a vacuum valve that was controlled by the same vacuum as the engine vacuum going to here, the back of the leak detection pump solenoid. That's just engine vacuum. It would tee off of there and it would go down to another valve that would close. So there's different variations of this. Even some newer ones I had where they still had a leak detection pump, but they didn't use vacuum to do it. There was no vacuum. They were just using spring pressure, and I don't even know. I wanted to do a video on it, but I didn't get a chance. I think it was on an 04 Ram before they went to the natural vacuum leak detection system. So anyway, this is a pump we're going to talk about, but like I said, I'm blocking off the fresh air so I can seal the system on this side, because you don't want whatever I'm doing to blow out. So like I said before, I usually deal with maybe 1.5 pounds. Sometimes I'll tempt fate and go up to 2. I don't go any higher than that. The system here works on a 1/4 pound. It actually does generator pressure instead of vacuum like most. This one is a pump that actually produces pressure, and it fills up to about a 1/4 pound. They say, I don't have anything that'll measure that low. So anyway, when I'm testing these, I go up to 1.5 pounds and look for it to hold. So I have this blocked, have shop air here, and we'll just get a quick shot of that. Alright, so I have my little Harbor Freight air blow nozzle, whatever you want to call it, and I just turn it on and off and try to build up a little bit of pressure. And I shut it off, and you can see that's dropping immediately. I can't build up anything. So at this point I know I have a big leak. So we're going to, what I'm going to do when I have a big leak like this, I can actually leave this on slightly and it's going to hiss wherever my leak is. So let's put the car up and show you what I found. Alright, so the telltale sign is I smell gas fumes real bad and you can hear it hissing. So this thing was in, I mean, it's a little bit rusty, it's a PA car, but we put the one rear brake line in right to the hose right here, and you can see that the vent line looks just like the brake line did a couple months ago. So usually I'll get like some of that pink tire spray and try to find it, but you can hear me touching it. So pretty much my leak is that metal line that goes from the gas tank, the vent line, to this rubber hose right here, and it's a pretty short line. The canister is right here, and that rusty line is the other side. And the other one, I don't know, the fuel line seems to be stainless, which is cool, and then the other line that's actually in the pumping system is that big, like, 1/2 inch line, and that's like a plastic tubing. Now a lot of times on some, well, not this one, but some of these, the big lines, I guess they're 1/2 inch, but these big lines at the canister will split and cause the same problem. So if you ever have one with these pumps, look especially at, you know, where the, oh, my light fell. Where's my light? Especially where the where they change from the big outlet of the canister to the smaller line. That's a Chrysler only hose if you need one. I don't feel any rips in this one, but they like to rip right in here, and these big ones like to split too. So sometimes it's as simple as just the rubber hose splitting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this alone. I'm going to force the car to run the test first so we can watch it work, and then I'm going to fix that, put a piece of, I don't know if it's 1/4 inch or 3/16 line in there and get you dizzy. So let's do some testing. Alright, so this is pretty much how I got myself in trouble when I first started learning about these. I actually went into the technical service bulletins, because when you don't know what you're doing, sometimes there's info on stuff. So can't remember, like I said, which vehicle it was, but they're all still about the same. So we found auxiliary emission control and then leak detection pump diagnostic. So it gives you pretty much a really good description on how it works. I'm not sure how much, I'm not going to sit here and read all this because it's pretty intricate as far as how it's working. If you look at the internal workings of the valve itself, you have, I don't know, hopefully that's coming through clear, it looks like it, but you have fresh air ports. I don't know, it's the 11 is your air filter. So this is your fresh air port. Number 1 is your pressure going back out to pressurize the canister and the tank and the filler neck and the whole system. And you have an electric solenoid up top that when it's energized, you got vacuum sitting here when you start the engine, and when this thing is energized, it supplies vacuum down to the chamber of the diaphragm, and that's going to pretty much pull on the diaphragm. And then once it comes up, you have a little reed switch, and that's the part I fried. There's a puny little reed switch up here, and the end of the shaft where this diaphragm is a magnet. So when that magnet comes up, it hits the reed switch and it opens it or closes it. I'm not sure, it tells you in here which way it is. So I accidentally shorted that to ground, because what it is there's only 3 wires, and one of them goes through the reed switch, one of them is power from the ASD relay, so it only has power when it's running, or a quick key on pulse to prime everything, and the other one goes back to the computer, and that grounds that leg of it to energize the solenoid. So it was easy to fry. I touched 2 leads together, whatever, so live and learn. So anyway, it gives you a pretty much description of what's all in there. I don't even know how I moved that, but whenever the valve is moving, it just moves valves off of a seat, and it'll suck air, and then whenever it pushes back down, it'll close that one and force the air that way. And then there's atmospheric pressure, like a vent up there, so the valve can actually come up, so there's all kind of stuff going on. I'll kind of pause on it so you can, if anyone wants to zoom in, I'll see if I can zoom in a little bit on it, so if anyone is that curious to read what it does here, you might need a bigger screen computer. That seems to be all in there. So that shows all the components, and then the next section, there's your diagnostic tips. Hopefully you could pause that and read it if you care that much. Like I said, I read a lot of this and learned enough to cause myself trouble. So then here it is at rest. It shows you what it's doing. It shows you, where it's where the atmospheric, is that what they're calling it, blocks the atmospheric pressure port up there when the solenoid's energized. It shows you what's going on there, and then it goes back to the diaphragm movement, and whenever it's being pulled up, it physically closes that, and then that's when the reed switch will energize or de-energize. Let's see, it does tell me here. Let's see. Okay, upwards movement, the leak detection pump reed switch turns from closed to open. So it should see 12 volts when it's at rest, and then whenever the diaphragm comes up, it'll see it open, and then it knows when it opens it moved, so it'll de-energize the solenoid and allow the vacuum field, if you would, to collapse and push that air back out, and it's just a pumping motion. So in theory, if you have a sealed system, it's going to pump at the rate that the computer is grounding the solenoid, and then if it is a sealed system, the pump rate's going to slow down. And I remember the old one I looked at said something about 70 cycles. I'm not really quite sure. I couldn't find that in this one, so it's pretty much predetermined. But now that I have the snap-on stuff, I can do the bi-directional controls, and I can actually at least do the large leak test, which is what I had, the P0455. So if I can get that to pass, what I mean, we'll just let it go at that and say that part was fixed. And if there's any small leaks, it might take a couple days to test itself. So so what we're going to do is I'm going to instrument. I don't think it shows you the downward movement. I don't know if you'll be able to read any of that. So either way, it is what it is. Shows the pumping action, 455 large leak. That's the one I had. And then it gives you a chart of what it's trying to do as far as the solenoid operating and the switch operating, and then the diaphragm moving and all that stuff. So I mean, it's a pretty good, if you're ever looking for it and you have Mitchell, it's a really good description of how it works. So we're just gonna do it in the field here, and like I said, it's a pretty long bulletin. I don't see anything else. It gives you pretty much strategy of what it's looking for and what it's going to do. So there you go. That's as good as I'm going to get on my teaching end. So let's go back to the car. and I'm going to start the car because when you turn the, I'll show you real quick, but when I can't just do it with the key on. Well, I mean, I could if I wanted to energize my Alright, so while that's running, I'm going to turn the key on once and you'll see both. I got two channels going. You'll see both go up to battery voltage, which means that I have power from the ASD relay. The ones I have probed are the computer control side, which would be after the solenoid. So I'm testing the solenoid integrity pretty much by turning the key on. If I have 12 volts on the control side, then the windings are good. And then the other one is the actual leak detection pump. So I'm not sure which one is which. Hold that thought, I'll check. Alright, so the leak detection pump, you have your dark green, orange, and that goes up to the starting charging system, it says, but if you follow that, it's pretty much the ASD relay circuit. So that's your power. And then you have the white dark green, which goes up to white dark green, the leak detection pump. And then you have your white orange, which will go up to your leak detection switch. So that's what we're doing here. So my white orange is my white one going to is my yellow. So my switching is going to be my yellow one, and my green one is going to be coming through the solenoid. So I'm going to turn the key on and hopefully you see it go to 12 volts. So that should have went to a 12 volt while the ASD relay was on. Alright, so I rewound that just to see if it did happen, and I want to say I saw the green one pulse twice to the leak detection pump switch, which is the yellow one, stay at 12 volts. So I think the computer grounded it just to check the circuit, because it will set a code. If that doesn't see 12 volts when you turn the key on, you know, after like a cool down period where there should be no more pressure in the system, you know, it'll set a code. I can't remember, 14 something, where you have a switch fault, a leak detection pump switch fault. I have seen those go bad too. So anyway, with no pressure in the system, which we don't have with a big leak, you should be seeing the 12 volts. I don't know if whenever I put my air into the system, you know, if I lift that diaphragm and change that, I might try that. Just, we're gonna start it up. I'm gonna run the car, so there'll be a little bit of noise, but make sure. What? What you need, man? I'm talking. Yeah. I'm learning about.
You gotta show them your
Stop. Alright, so it's running, and you can see stuff happening. Oh, it's cold. It's probably trying to test itself right now. Oh yeah, I will. So like I said, the green one is the duty cycle on my solenoid. And why is the pump not switching, Nick? Oh, okay. Pull that. I got my. Hold on. Don't. I got my vice grips. Hold on. I got my vice grips on the. All right, pull them off, Nick. Let's see what. Oh, it quit doing it. All right, go ahead. Pull them off. I saw it come up once. Why is it not working, Nick? Every once in a while, I see a pulse. Maybe I need to be on a better scale. Hold that thought a second. Let's go to Maybe if I go to a, my lab scope. Doing a 2-channel lab scope. Oh, there we go. I'm just not. I was just on a regular voltmeter. I always go the wrong way. No, wait, I'm not. Let's try 5 milliseconds. Man, that's really booking. Guess I could have done it. I could have done it with the voltmeter. I didn't want to go as low as I'm going. So here is the green one. The computer energizing the leak detection pump, and the pump actually coming up. Am I in range here? Can you see it? If I could hold this still, and if Nick was here to hold this. You got, that's cool, man. I'm not. Why didn't that show up good at 1 second on the regular meter? Oh, look, it quit. It quit testing itself. Let's see. I'm gonna shut it off and try that again. See if we can show that a little bit better. Alright, so it did say in that bulletin that it's only going to do it on a cold start to check. So I've ruined my opportunity for today for the car to check itself, but I can command the scanner to do it. So since I wasn't really on the good scale, I don't think, I can, under system tests, I can do the Evap monitor test, and I can force this thing to run. So it might take 20 minutes, let it run, start the engine. We'll raise my idle. So at this point, hopefully it's going to start commanding this thing. Alright, so the idle went up. It might have like did a purge cycle, and the computer is energizing the solenoid, which is the green one, and then hopefully you'll see. I don't know why my triggers must be off. I don't have any triggers set. Ah, see, it's stuck. I did it to myself again. It's stuck because I have had my vice grips on the vent line. So there you go. So looks like it's moving every time the computer energizes the solenoid. Vacuum is being pulled into the diaphragm, lifting up the valve, and the magnet at the end is making that reed switch cycle. So what I believe you want to see here is for this spacing to slow down. You can see I'm at a 5-second window, and it's moving like once a second, I guess, close to that. So with the leak I have, that's never going to slow down. Look, it just quit. So let's go see what codes we have. Computer was testing itself, so let's see if it's complete. Alright, it says Evap monitor completed. Look for codes in the 1 trip. So since I cleared my codes, it should be there now. Codes 455. Large leak detected. So that's what's how. Look, it even turned the check engine light on for me. Nice. So that's what's going on. So I'm gonna fix that leak, and then we're gonna try running it again. It's nice with the tools that'll control it, because like I said, I would hook up a vacuum pump externally, and I was trying to feed it power because the ASD relay wouldn't stay on without the car running, and then trying to ground it and read it at the same time. That's how I shorted mine out. But you know, it was fun learning. So anyway, I'm gonna fix that, and then we're gonna watch this work hopefully better and pass that large leak test. So all right, so my battery's about dead here, but I put a piece of line in there, and then I put a T in there because I wanted to do a little experiment. When I'm done, I'll just take that T out and hook it back up to the line. But we had this long thing out here because we were trying to get better engine vacuum. This thing has a worn out engine with a small, probably Corvette booster, so we had to do a, oh, that was your gauge. Oh man, it's okay. So we had to do an auxiliary vacuum pump. Where's that at? Hiding. Where did we hide that? Oh, right there. Whatever. And so I have it hooked back up, and then instead of the pressure gauge at the end, I taped a rubber glove to it. I don't know if it's going to work. We're going to see if it generates a pressure enough to blow up a rubber glove, and then hopefully what we're going to see here is the duty cycle of both the control of the solenoid and the actual valve moving slow down as the system builds up pressure. So we'll start the car and I'll command the test, and we'll see where we're at. Just like last time, I think it's purging right now. In fact, I still have my gauge hooked up, so it's purging the system right now, and then it'll do the test, I believe. Alright, so now the computer is duty cycling, and look, it's growing, Nick, look at it. So we're probably going to set a code that might have a little bit too much volume. Check it out. There's the thumb, it's hanging loose. I'm not seeing any valve control. This pump, oh, there it goes. The pump, you can see the yellow, the pump's moving. I think I'm still on my 5-second window, yep. It's pumping it up. You can see it's working. I don't know if that's, I think we still have another leak somewhere, Nick. That should be slowing down. Or maybe that glove's the leak because you zip tied it on there. Look, it's like soft. Alright, we'll try this again. Alright, now it's going to start duty cycling the leak detection pump. Alright, so the computer is grounding it. My glove's actually blowing up. Nice. It does it fast and then it pulses it for a little bit, and you can see my duty cycle is wider now. Instead of 5 to 6, I have like 4. If I pause that, you can see my duty cycle spread out. I had 5 or 6 before, and now it's slowing down. I don't know how slow it'll get. Look, it's even getting wider now. So every time it pumps up, it should get slower. So, and now it's starting to purge. So it purged, and that's why it started dropping off at the end. So I think that worked, man. Let's go check our code. So it tells me to check for our codes in the secondary or one trip. We got codes, no codes. Remember, it even turned the check engine light on before. Secondary, no codes, and one trip. Ooh, now I have the small leak, which could easily be my glove. So I'm gonna run that one more time without a glove. We'll tap it together. At least we saw it work, and we'll see what happens there. Alright, so I took my tee out and my glove out and put the Schrader back in. So now what we're looking at is we want to see, I think it does a rhythmic check real quick. It said real fast pulse at the beginning, and then it'll purge a little bit to see how long it takes for, well, once it starts purging, then that voltage should return to where it's 0 volts. So it's actually checking for the large leak right now. Okay, now it's purged a little bit, and it's going to pulse it and check for the small leak. And you can see I'm at like 3 now at 5 seconds, so it's going down to 2. Wow, okay, so that's what we're expecting to happen. It should start pumping, and it should quit pumping altogether, and it did that. So I pretty much created my own problem trying to have fun with a rubber glove. So, yeah, I mean, it should quit any moment now. It quit doing everything, and my valve quit moving. Okay, now it's purging, most likely. No, it's just one pump. Okay, there we go. And then it starts purging. Once it does, that valve can collapse onto, you know, its rest position, open up the atmospheric pressure, and then the voltage should return. So let me shut this off real quick. So from what I read on how this works, if I don't run out of time on my card here, key on, engine off, you're going to see 12 volts on my yellow one, which was my leak detection pump switch. Then it's going to start duty cycling my green one. That's the solenoid, and that's going to apply vacuum to that diaphragm. When it applies vacuum, it pulls the diaphragm up off of its seat, which pulls fresh air in. When it does that, the magnet comes up and pulls the reed switch away from, you know, the contact point, so I'll lose my signal voltage, which is what it did. It pumped it rhythmically a couple times, and then it stopped. And I believe at that point it's you know, it wants to see how long it takes for it to collapse. You know, if there's a leak, it'll pump it up a couple times and then it'll stop, because it'll build up pressure. And then if that bleeds off too fast, the diaphragm's going to drop and the magnet's going to move away from the reed switch, and you're going to see your 12 volts pretty quick. That's your large leak test. Then a small leak test is after it did that, it purged a little bit to create a leak, to get it to drop again, to make sure it actually switched. And then it started pulsing it rhythmically, and you saw that pulse get wider and wider and wider until it stopped pumping, and that's how it checked for its at least medium leak, if not small leak. So we could go to the scanner and confirm that we have no codes. Do that real quick. Alright, so we can check this. Codes only, no codes present. Secondary indicators, something's pending, nothing's present. And the one trip, this is where the small leak showed up. My large leak, remember, showed up on the codes. It was that quick, and it even turned a light on. So the one trip is where we were looking at. No codes present. So I think with what we saw on the lab scope reading, as far as the actual thing working and the the pulse slowing down to the rate that it did, that this thing is a pretty sure fix. So I think I can ship this car, and that would be it. So thanks for watching, guys.